The word, the world is heavy right now. Life can get very intense, and we have to find ways to lighten our load. Personally, I love comedy and just how it makes me feel. Sometimes when I have the blues, I turn on, for me, it's Kevin Hart, George Lopez, or I'll just, turn on some type of comedy show to just make me feel, get the endorphins going. And, I guess I use it as a stress reliever, is the truth. And it's no surprise that studies have shown that laughter is actually good for the heart. So hopefully I have a healthy heart. Anna, Cuban-American actress Ana Rey says that laughter makes everything better, and she is so right. Anna stars in Maya Rudolph's comedy Lutz on Apple TV. She's had roles in popular shows like Lopez versus Lopez, Parks and Recreation, Californication, which is, I don't know about funny, but and the Showtime hit Irma. She has also played opposite Clint Eastwood in Cry Macho, which is absolutely amazing. Anna is with us today to talk about her love of comedy and how it's impacted her life and how it can help us too. Anna, hi, how are you?
Hi. So nice to speak to you. This is great.
Thank you for being here. I mean, you've done some amazing, amazing work. So, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you've expressed an appreciation for comedy, which I share. And I feel as Latinos, generally, there's always exceptions to the rule, we are happy people. But
Absolutely.
but we're also human, right?
Sure.
So comedy for me has been one of the best tools that I use to uplift my spirits because life can get really overwhelming. And I wanted to start with, what role did comedy play in your childhood, if any? And how important do you think it is for us to incorporate it into our lives?
Well, when I was growing up, I grew up in a community that wasn't overly immigrant populated. My parents were one of the few Latinos in the community. It was very, very white. And there was a bit of isolation there. I mean, I had my friends, but I won't say I got bullied, because considering what bullying is now, what I went through was nothing. I'm gonna call it now that I was negatively teased a lot. And honestly, goodness knows I wasn't the strongest person in class. Goodness knows I wasn't the most intimidating. The only way to really be able to cope with it and to kind of break that tension is to be funny, just to find a punchline. And if everybody laughs, then you're more likely to be left alone. They're like, oh, it's no fun to make fun of her, to tease her, because she's just going to turn it into a joke. And every now and again people would tease me just so I can say something funny. But for the most part, that really, really gave me a lot of freedom to just kind of be myself.
Wow, I love that. And how important do you think comedy is? Laughter, humor.
Well, for me, it's as important as breathing, as eating. Honestly, everybody's saying right now of what a tense moment we're living in right now. There's so much going on. Honestly, people have been saying that all my life. People always see what's going on in the world, and it's scary. What's going on in Washington, what's going on in the state, what's going on in your city, in your community,
In the world.
in the world. And humor, and I'm not saying to put that aside. I'm not saying to kind of, you know,
Ignore
insulate
it.
yourself in comedy and ignore what's going on, but to be able to use humor as that release, as that ability to maybe look at something and find someone that finds the humor in it, and you're like, oh my God, this, you know, this is solvable. We can, when you find the humor, and honestly, because, you know, I was a theater major in college, so this is something that comedy has been doing for most of the history of humanity. Being able, since the Greeks, being able to laugh at people in power, being able to laugh at what otherwise might be a scary situation, is how humanity has dealt with stress for as long as we've been human, really.
Absolutely. And you've been really, I'll say blessed. It's not luck. So I think we
Very
make our
much
own
so.
luck to work on the set with some of our favorite comedians. I speak for myself. Maya Rudolph, which is
Oh
a
my God.
legend, and
Yes.
she's still so
Legend.
young. George Lopez, which is wow, he's an icon, especially for
Yes.
hello Latinos.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and in my experience, energy is contagious, whether it's positive or negative. What is it like to be part of a show? Because you worked on Lopez versus Lopez and now
Right.
Loot. What is it like to be part of a show that aims to make people feel good and to be joyful? Was this always your idea to be part of this genre?
Well, you know, when I graduated college, goodness knows, you know, in a theater, as a theater major, you want to have a broad experience in everything, in drama and comedy and something in between. But I have to say, the first time I was on a comedy set, it was like, I'm home.
And
I'm
wait, what
home.
show was
This,
that? Share with us. Which show was
you
that?
know, it was the first time, it was a comedy called Less Than Perfect.
Okay.
And that was the first live comedy that I'd done. And the night we were taping in front of a live audience. And you know, I'd done theater before, and I knew what that felt like. But as soon as I heard that laugh, that was it.
Powerful.
It was euphoric. It was euphoric. It was just to know that I hit it, and to know that the audience is taking this journey with you in the story. It was everything. It was fantastic. And that's what got me hooked. I'm like, okay, this is it.
I love that. And what's the energy like on a set like Lopez versus Lopez?
Honestly, I really have to admit, I've been really very fortunate in that all the sets I've been on, you can really feel, personally, out of all my experience, you really know that the mood on a set, the atmosphere on a set comes from the top down.
Absolutely.
You know, whatever mindset, whatever the top people in the room are bringing into that space is infectious. It'll infect everyone.
Absolutely.
And especially with three occasions, I really felt it. Of course, Loot. I mean, it's a atmosphere where, because sometimes when you have like a lesser role, I've been on situations where they're just like, you come in, you
I
say
wouldn't
your
say
line, you leave.
lesser. I would say smaller role, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't say lesser.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're important.
I'll
You're
take
important.
that. But they want you to just basically create the world around the lead characters. And they're like, you go in, you do your line, you leave, it's fine. And I'm like, okay, that's what you're paying me for. That's what I'll do. But like with Loot and George Lopez, the ability to be creative, to ad lib. I mean,
Love that.
With this last season with Lou, there were two occasions where I was like, huh, you know what? Let's try something. I had another scene with another actor who's also Latino, and it was kind of like a gag with where we were supposed to be like living our, like a telenovela while other people like live their life and we're living like in a telenovela. And we were saying the lines were written in English and we did the lines in English and it was great. But both of us at one point looked at each other and were like, we should really be doing this in Spanish. I mean, come on, telenovela. We need to do this in Spanish. So we just had a quick improv of like how we would translate the lines. And we went to the director and she was like, okay, cut, we're ready to move forward. I was like, may I please just, I guess I had more confidence because I'd been on the last season, but I was like, can we just do it one more time? And can we just do it in Spanish? And she kind of like cocked her head and went, yeah, sure, let's give it a shot one more time. We did it perfectly. And the director just came back. That was great. We loved it. I still don't know. Well, we'll find out, in a couple of days whether it made it into the series. But to be able to have that ability to speak up and say, hey, I got an idea, and to be listened to. George Lopez was great with that. Like both George and Maya encouraged us to ad lib. We'd do it once as we'd have the read through. We did it once as written. And then once we were filming, it really turned into like, let's just play. Let's just play with it and see what happens. And so many times George was like, that was even better than what we wrote down. Let's keep that. That's what we're keeping.
What did you learn anything from being on the set with George Lopez or Maya Rudolph? Because they're icons.
Yes.
Did you learn anything?
Whenever I'm on a set, because I've also worked with Amy Pohler. I've also worked with Clint Eastwood. And most of the time, I keep my mouth shut and my eyes open. I just want to make sure that I am absorbing as much experience as I can. But especially with George, they were so encouraging that they kind of trust that if you've made it onto that set, you're funny. You can be funny. And they trust you to do your job, basically. They trust you as a professional to be able to say, let's try it another way and just,
which gives you confidence, by the way. It also gives you confidence. It helps you build that confidence.
Absolutely. It shows that they're trusting you as a professional. I get a lot of people a lot of times telling me that they feel almost like they get imposter syndrome. They feel that they don't really belong there. But when someone like George Lopez or Maya Rudolph, when they trust you with what to explore what you brought to the set, that gives you a lot of confidence. That gives you a lot of kind of the foundation to let you know that what you're doing is right, that you're doing the right thing.
I love that. Now, I have to ask. No one is happy all the time.
Sure.
Everyone is dealing with something, but we put our game face on and we get the work done. We get the job done, whatever it is, whether you work in an office, on film, television, radio. Now, I don't think that we should exclude film and television, because I think actors have to do the same. They have their lives and they have to come on and put on a show. So, I believe this adds an extra layer of pressure to the job. There's a side to every coin. So, even though we get the best out of you when you're on film, there's things go on. Your life is going on for every actor. And working on shows on loot is great, but I think it can also be tough. And I mean loot, Lopez versus Lopez, all of them. No one feels happy all day, every day. Have you had an instance where maybe you haven't been feeling your best mentally, and we're going through a lot of that right now, but you had to film a scene that required you to be funny, upbeat, and, show your good side, show the bright side? Has that ever happened to you? And how did you handle it? Because we do
Oh,
it at work
goodness.
all the time.
Oh my gosh, more times than you can imagine. I have a really
Yeah.
long story from Californication, but I'll give you a short story just for time's sake, for time
Time's sake.
management. But on Loot, there was a day where I had a migraine, and my migraines are, send me to the emergency room. They're really, really intense and devastating. And that day I was just like, you are not going to get me. Not today. Not today. Mm-mm. I'm not going to let this happen.
Mind over matter, right?
Mind over matter. And also I just did everything within my power that I knew that could help me, in that I took my medications on time. I, kept everything quiet and, as much as I could, considering that I have a family and, but kept the space I was in, since you have to be at the set at like 6 a.m. or something like that. Goodness knows. It was easier to kind of just not turn on the lights, just keep things, mellow, make sure I ate regularly, and really just stay on top of it. And when I got to the set, luckily it was a quick scene. We were done in no time. So I got there, I went through hair and makeup. I got called to the set. Also I stayed really hydrated. I've noticed that that's really important for me when I have my migraines, is to stay hydrated. And then finally I went in, I did my scene. It was a delight as usual. And I just smiled and went, thank you so much, everybody. Good to see you all. And I walked off the set and I went home and I literally just like closed all the curtains, and I just stayed in the dark for the rest of the day.
I feel that. I think we all go through it. It's part of the human experience, but
Sure.
We have to push forward. Especially when we love what we do. I think just that helps too.
And that makes all the difference in the world. If you're not feeling what you're doing, a migraine is just like, that's like, hey, sorry.
It's like adding fuel to the fire.
I'm done for the day. I'm unplugged. Don't call me. I'm done. But again, when you really, really want to be there, when it's where your heart is, you're like, I got to figure this out. This is where I need to be. And you find it. You find that strength. You find that ability. You power through. And then you take care of yourself when it's all over.
Absolutely. Now, laughter is a great form of medicine. I'm telling you, when I have the blues, just pop in, something funny, and it lifts my spirit. And it can, at the same time, it serves as a source of positive energy to boost your mood. How do you stay in flow and fill your own cup?
You know what? Sometimes that can be a little tough. Like I said, I have a family. And of course, like any, traditional Latino family, where we have my mom, we have my family, my son, my husband. And that to find, I basically have two jobs, because I have a day job and I have my acting. And I can tell you it can be tough. But even though it might not be, well, I do kind of have a daily practice. I do make sure that before I go to bed, I clear my mind. I feel my entire body relax. I pretend I'm melting into the mattress to make sure that all the tension of the day is drained away. I do everything I can to get a really good night's sleep, at least minimum 7 hours of sleep. Again, I stay hydrated, and as kind of a more overarching thing, I make time to just hang out with friends. Like every now and again, like once or twice a month, I'll take a day where I'm just like, hey, everybody, I'm going to lunch with a girlfriend. Good luck to you all. And I just go and I spend time with a friend. And we hash out all of our issues and we laugh and we help each other out. And it's important. Those connections are really, really important.
Oh, it's good for the soul. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. As long as you surround yourself with good people, with
So important.
positivity.
So
Absolutely.
important.
I
Yes.
I felt that. Now, one of the things that I love to do at the end of interviews is share a quote, mantra, or piece of advice for our listeners. Um, can you offer some words of inspiration for anyone who may be listening and they may not be seeing the bright side of life right now or see the humor in anything? And we all have those times.
Sure.
What would you say to them?
Well, I can tell you from my own personal experience, a lot of times I tend to be like, this is the end of the world. This is going to be the end of me right here, And what I do when I get to that point where I just build myself up so much that I kind of painted myself into a stressed out corner is, again, I lay down. I try to relax as much as I can. I, have my chamomile, my tilo, my chamomile tea. And
Oh, manzanilla. That's good too.
manzanilla, of course, la manzanilla. We cannot forget that one. And just I know it's really basic, but I kind of need basic mantras because if they're too complicated, if they're more than 2 sentences, I don't need that. I don't need that. So I just tell myself, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. If I have to, put off something else in order to prioritize what needs to be prioritized, either they'll understand and that opportunity will come again, or that opportunity was never genuine in the first place. And you just have to tell yourself, everything's going to be okay. And I just try to do my best to relax, to drain the tension from my body, and just say over and over, everything's going to be okay. And every time some negative self-talk or something negative tries to sneak in, I'm like, no. Very calmly, I say, no. I don't have time for that. If a negative image, comes into my brain, I have a way of imagining that it's a photograph, burning that photograph, and then watching the ashes blow away. And and then I go back into, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And
Sometimes,
yeah, that's helped me.
Sometimes it's just a matter of, to your point, taking a breath, taking just a breath and saying, I'm okay. And literally just sort of staying in that moment.
Yeah.
And breathing. Sometimes it's just breathing.
And
it
sometimes
really does make a difference.
That could be the hardest thing to do.
Oh my
because it's very natural for us to hold our breath and to tense up, and that can be the biggest challenge, is to just relax and breathe and just relax.
One of my favorite mantras, and I went through a really bad depression that was triggered by a divorce.
Oh, I'm
And
so
I
sorry.
remember Thank you. Oh, that was ages ago.
Excellent.
But thank you. Um, I remember my sister pulled me to the side and she said, "Breathe. This too shall pass." That's it. That's it. Nothing else.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
And I that has stayed with me. And sometimes
Excellent.
because life has peaks and valleys. It doesn't you could be doing great one day, you just never know. You just
Absolutely.
have to remember to breathe because
Yeah.
this too shall pass.
After Californication, I didn't book anything for 2 years.
Oh
And
my
I was
gosh.
going out. I was auditioning like a lot. Because I did like 6 or 7 episodes of Californication. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to be able to quit my job. I'm going to be able to live my life as an artist. And I'm never going to have to, ask permission to leave work or take a PTO day or anything. And I was ready for it. And even though I was auditioning, I did not book one job for 2 years after that. And again, it took a lot of time to just breathe, just stop and breathe, because then that negative self-talk keeps coming in and saying, maybe you're not meant for this. Maybe this isn't what you're supposed to do. Maybe you
Or
just
our
need to
favorite,
quit.
maybe you're not good enough because
Right.
that's one of the
Absolutely.
oh wow, that is an
Absolutely.
intruder all the time.
Absolutely. But I got through it, and I'm really glad I did, because I've done so many wonderful things since then.
And we love to watch you. We hope to continue watching, so make sure you do not quit. Whatever you do, don't quit.
Thank you.
One of the things that I love to do also is make sure that our listeners know where to find you. So how can they find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at La Rey de Hollywood, Larey Hollywood, because I just thought it was a cute play on words.
Manifesting.
Yes,
Manifesting.
absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, I have to say, I've been sick. As you can hear, I've been sick recently, so I haven't been posting much, but I will absolutely I'll be posting about the podcast. I'll be posting about a lot of other things that are happening, but that's where usually I post content about what I'm doing, what I'm up to, where to see me.
Anna, thank you so much for being here, especially with your congestion. I'm so grateful to you. Um,
Absolutely.
so thank you. You're lovely, and I'm sure we'll see more of you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope I get to talk to you again.
Absolutely. And thank you, our beautiful community, for listening to this episode of the AW Confidential Podcast. Talk to you soon.